And welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You can go to soten.z.dev to learn more. I think we'll get right into it today. A little quick, maybe a little short, but we'll see. So we've been working on NZ1, which is the clock tower. And I haven't been submitting these changes back yet, so the progress hasn't changed too much. I still need to look into whether or not I can fix these graphs so that they don't always show the last date as the current date, because that's not actually what it is. Hey, does it? Good to have you. But let's get into it. So yesterday we were looking at the boss doors and found a function that was misnamed on the PSP. Looks like it's probably out of order and being incorrectly associated with a file related to the boss door. So we have a function that's related to dropping the bridge, the collapsible bridge that's just outside the clock tower. We want to get that function working on the PSP. We want to get the files split up and then maybe finish off this function that looks like it's unused. And so we don't have a PSP equivalent version for the PlayStation, which can be a little difficult. Oh yeah, my camera is gone. Sometimes, I don't know why. That's fine in the settings. Huh. When I go to the properties, I see me. Oh, I wonder if I pressed a button. Could that be that I pressed a button and moved it somewhere else? I should really lock it. Well, drat. So it is what happened. Oh, I think I see me. Give me 1 second to fix this. Yeah, I made myself huge and in the backgrounds somehow. There we go. Let's get smaller. And in the corner. Nobody puts the Made Up of Wires host in the corner except me. Who's the Made Up of Wires host? There we go. That's better. All right. Let's get into it. So first we're going to... this function is incorrectly named boss door helper, but the function in reality is drop bridge piece. I think I might start from this. Should we start here? No, let's go grab the one from the PlayStation and we'll try to do it from there. So one of the things we're going to learn is that this is not static because it's in a separate file. And so we're going to have to be able to reference this outside of this current compilation unit. I can copy pasta. Let's try it again. All right, and so we're going to be close, but not quite there. And the things that are missing are where Y is calculated. Y actually looks like it is calculated here. But then, actually, I think this is fine. I think it's just these subtractions. So I think we're going to have X minus equals 64. And Y minus equals 32. And that gets us to both of those there. And so then the next part of this is where our shifts are happening. And again, this looks like it's probably, so I have this as a const because why not? But it looks like the math for shifting what? So we're doing division by 16. And then adding oh, is this just a division by 16? And then adding J. So dumb. Yeah, this is much simpler than I should have realized. So in the PlayStation version, it's kind of mixing up a bunch of this math and doing the shifts in an odd order. But it looks like we're just we're dividing x by 16 and then adding j. And let's try to force the order. And then my guess is that we're doing basically the same thing here. We can get rid of this. We're doing a y divided by 16 plus I. Not quite. So we actually might be shifting by 4. No, we're not. Oh, ignore everything that I said. Okay, we are doing we're doing a j times 16. Let's try to work these out, and I'll include some of this down here. But what I want to try to do is figure out where this might be going on. We might have, yeah, we do have some additional variables. Okay, so we're pre-computing some of these. It looks like so. Our I here is we're gonna need a few more variables. It looks like maybe 2. So let me create those. So this is going to be like, we'll call it X index and Y index. It looks to me like we're doing the equivalent of our S2. Nope, RS6. Oh, we're not having some problems. Let's make that not const. All right, so yeah, yeah, looks. So let's make this our Y index, and it looks like here's where we're adding Y. All right, is that better? Yeah, that's better. And so what I want to see is, are these correct? Oh, we have yet another, possibly yet another variable. Let's look here. And this is getting stored back into Y? So it looks like we're taking Y. Sorry about the variable names. Probably not the best, but we'll get through it eventually. I thought these were going to end up being indexes, but they appear not to quite be that. Let's see. Our variables are looking better, though. So I think that this is correct. So we're calculating this Y value early on and then not doing it down here. And how close are we? I think most of our instructions are correct. We are missing a shift right arithmetic. We'll fix that as well. So then we have our x, and that's going to be the same thing, j times 16 plus x index. And again, I might want to reverse these, but we'll see. And it looks like where these are being shifted may be wrong. Or how they're being shifted. We're missing a shift right up here for S2. Let me get my parens correct. What happened to my toolbar? Come on, toolbar, come back to me. What is the complaint? Oh, I can't declare the index now, because I have other statements beforehand. And that matches. So let's clean this up a bit. Then we'll go back to the PlayStation version and see if it matches there too. I would be surprised if it didn't. I'm gonna rename. Let's do this. Let's see if we need this index variable at all. We might. Yeah, we do need that. And I guess that's fine. I don't like the variable names necessarily, but they are what they are. Let's call this FG index. All right, so that should match drop bridge piece over here. And this is kind of a nice self-contained function. It doesn't have any globals or anything like that. Let's see if we can get this to compile over here as well. And if it still works for the PlayStation, I'm hoping it will. And it works there too. So obviously this is the same because the code is the same. Now what we have to do is kind of surgically remove these from both of these places. So it was incorrectly included in the boss doors file when the split was done for Clock Tower. And it was incorrectly included in Breakable Bridge. It is more similar to Breakable Bridge, and so you might expect it there, and I think it's only used in Breakable Bridge. We can double check that. Yeah, so it doesn't even show up because of how we extract symbols. If a symbol only exists in C code, we don't get it in the assembly listing unless we have a target that will force it into the assembly listing, but usually it's not there. So for matching functions that only exist in C, we don't get the symbols in the assembly. So we don't see it anywhere else, though, is the point. Let me look just one more time. Yeah, it's only used in Breakable Bridge, but unfortunately we have to move it to a different file. So let's do that. What we need is a new file. We need to find the offset for Break Bridge, and that's going to be our new eBreakable Bridge section offset. And we're going to do this first in the US, and then we'll do it for PSP. Hey, Willie OD. Good to have you. So data is not going to change. RO data is not going to change. Only C. So we'll call this, I guess, Breakable Bridge Util or something like that. What is the function called? We could name it just after the function. That would be fine too. Drop bridge piece. We'll just call it that. And that's going to start where Breakable Bridge started before. I before E except after C. We'll create our new C file. And in it, we don't really need much. So we need G current entity and tile map declarations. I think both of those are going to be in game.h. Yeah, so we can just include that. We don't need anything stage specific. And we'll include the copyright header. That gets included by the linter, but might as well put it in there. I guess it's license header, not copyright. And that's it. So now we need to figure out where drop bridge exists. So we're going to go to E matchings, E breakable bridge. And then the... Oh, we don't have... drat. We don't have... symbols for the functions either. That's a bummer. I would like to fix that. The way that it's fixed, though, is kind of complicated, and so I haven't looked into it. I've looked into it. I haven't done it. We're going to replace this offset with this new one. And this should work fine. I don't think anything too crazy will happen here. We got to get rid of it from the other file. Can't have it in both files at the same time. And it won't affect the PSP because it was already a function that was excluded from the PSP build? Yes, you can see the function addresses after build in the map file, or you could use the elf file. Either one of those would have the addresses. They won't necessarily have the offsets into the file, though. Yeah, you could subtract that. Yep, absolutely. I'm just lazy. So if I can brute force something, all the better. All right, so we have our split for NZ1 done, and now that's in the separate file. Now, sorry, for the US. Now we're going to do the same thing. And this should be a little easier because we'll have the non-matching symbols, which everything will be there. So we'll do it for the EU next. PSP EU. And so we need to look for... this was incorrectly attributed to boss door, so this is actually a little bit easier because we're going from the end of boss door, so we don't need to know the offset of the next function, boss doors. We just need to know the offset of the drop bridge piece function, which we mostly know. We could, like Dizek said, calculate the offset based on the VRAM address, but again, I'm lazy, so we're gonna do it the lame way and just grab it from the file. And again, I think this should work fine. Oh, we will have to pull the include ASM out of the same error that I forgot about last time. And that works fine. So now we're in a better place. We're sharing that code between both of them. The symbols are correct. It's in a different order, so we think it's in a different file. All of that is the same. What is missing here, and what I'm going to do is we're missing this boss door helper function, and I think we'll go back to that for a second. I think that's just being dead stripped. Yeah, it's this one here. Oh, thank you, Large Herring. Looks like he matched this for us. Hey, Roaming, good to have you. Thank you. We look at what his change was versus what I had here. Not this one. Where'd that go? There we go. I can tab. That's not the right one either. There we go. So it looks like reordering how the subtraction was done for offset Y. And then it was offset Y less than equal to 0. Yeah, I like that better. So Roaming solved this for us, so thank you, Roaming. Appreciate it. So Roaming got this matched. And what we can do is throw this in here. And we're going to make it static. Static tells the compiler that only other functions, the only references to this function will be in the same compilation unit. Compilation unit roughly equates to a single file. So this C file gets turned into an object file. That object file is a compilation unit. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it in the PSP version. I'm going to put the unused macro on there. And we'll do it over here as well. And this should work. And it does. So what does the unused macro do? I mentioned that the other day. It is the compiler specific. It expands the compiler specific attribute for whatever compiler you're using to tell the compiler that this function should be there, but it's unused. For MetroWorks, I don't think it expands to anything, but MetroWorks we have set to dead strip any references to globals that are not used. So we can put that in there, and it gets dropped from the final compilation output, and we're that much closer. So thank you, Roman, for fixing that. Appreciate it. I'll have to make sure. How am I going to remember this? I'll put a to-do here. To make sure that I add you as an author to that commit. And then we're at boss door trigger. That's the last one here. How quickly can we do boss door trigger? Hopefully relatively quickly. I'm gonna do we not have boss door? Why wouldn't we have boss door trigger in here? Entity boss door. Oh, this is our only entity. Do I want to start with the PSP version? Probably not. How long is this? Longer than the others. Alright, so we'll start a new Okay, so we have a few things that we're going to have to deal with. It looks like there's references to related entities that are overflowing. And those are just incrementing probably the self pointer. And then using fields from the subsequent values. Overall, this doesn't look too bad. Some gross things in there, but really it's just the compiler producing output that doesn't look nice. I think and hope this will be straightforward, but you never know. So I'm going to get rid of these declarations. And then so we can we know that we're going to have at least one entity that's after the current entity, and an entity size is BC. So we know that something that's BE after the start of our pointer is in the next entity. So I know that I'm going to have at least one entity pointer, and it looks like we already have one. So I'm going to rename temp_v0 to entity, and we'll try to reuse that as much as possible. Usually they are reused. There's a couple other things that I see in here that will need to be fixed as well, but I think dealing with these unknown fields is the first order of business. So how do we figure out what field that is without remembering what that field name is? So we want BE minus BC, and everybody knows that that's offset 4, so that's position Y. And depending on what, I think that's fine. I don't see anything else. Oh, it's probably position X or position YI high. Yeah, because we're using I high here. Usually these are all, the I high is the integer portion. So it's pretty rare to use I low. Usually, if the lower 16 bits are used, we use val and use the full 32-bit. EC minus BC is 30. And everybody knows 30 is, probably look at the field and see, step, oh no, params. And I'm guessing that this is params over here. Oh no, it's just 0. Okay. Yes, you can use the modulo for the size. That is correct. Yeah, and it's actually, for these later ones, it's probably better to use the modulo because, or modulus, because they're so much bigger. And so my guess is it's just one more past the current entity, but we'll have to see. And then C2 is offset 6. Offset 6 is low. That's a little, so I'm off by 2 somehow. These will be close together. We'll see what this is in a second. I don't think I did anything wrong, but sometimes GCC does strange things with pointers. And not necessarily grabbing the expected value. And so these are going to be the same. I'm not going to look at that again. The offsets are a little different in terms of X and Y position. Alright, so next I'm going to get rid of the go-tos. Actually, next I'm going to fix the GAPI stuff. That is always struct access. We can get rid of those. Oh, we already have those in context. We'll do the go-tos next. So the block 23 is just setting the step, so we have to look at what each of those is doing individually. Nothing afterwards, so I can break there. So let's look at block 23. I'm guessing that most of these are going to be just incrementing the step and then breaking. Kind of a silly optimization. The branch is actually relatively expensive on MIPS, so it's not clear to me. Do a plus equals 1. It's not clear to me why you would branch to do an increment, which then just branches. That seems like a regression. All these so far have just been increment. There's no increment instruction, like given a offset increment it in MIPS. That maybe later versions do have that instruction. I don't know. But it's also odd because this block 22 is doing the same thing, but if you were saying, I'm going to save code size by doing the read, increment, and then write, okay, you're saving 3 instructions every time you do that. Maybe that's fine, but you're getting a branch as a consequence, which I think is the worst trade-off. Why would you only do it some places and not others? That doesn't make sense to me. How close must the match percent be for the code to do basically the same thing without matching directly? The code can do the same thing logically with being 0% the same. Unfortunately, there's no mathematical way to say percentage-wise how close code is to be doing the same thing, which seems like a contradiction. But you could, if it's 100%, it's going to do the same thing. If it's 99.9%, it might do something extremely different. Because that one instruction or that one address or whatever it is may be fundamental to how the rest of the function works. And so you don't know necessarily. What I look at when I'm going through and trying to do the match is, where are the differences? In this case, for example, down here on line 19, this will never match the way that I do things in decomp.me. It will absolutely match when it's compiled in the project, but it will never match here. And that's because we put a symbol in for a field inside of a struct. And we put that symbol in because we can't reference field structs, or struct fields, sorry, in assembly. We can only reference symbols. And so when this is being compiled as assembly, we need some symbol or a symbol plus offset like this here. But as a human, I don't want to read a symbol plus offset. I want to read something as symbol. And just as an idiom in our project, we know that if something is prefixed with G API underscore, it's going to be G API dot time attack controller. It's going to be field access instead. The assembly is not going to know that. Decomp.me is not going to know that these are the same symbol. It's always going to say that this is an immediate value difference that it can't resolve. And maybe if we included a symbol table, even then it would be, there's a lot of other information that you need to be able to resolve that these are the same thing. When it gets compiled, this gets compiled to a address, and that address will result in the same thing, and I can know that, but decomp.me doesn't have enough information to know that. So we won't get to 100% on this. And when that happens, I can either mark it as an override that, yeah, this is actually 100% and it will work, or I usually just leave it. So those I know can be wrong and will work out. Sometimes RO data is also not correct because of, again, context. There's some things that the compiler knows that decomp.me just doesn't have enough information to know. But for the most part, we do need 100%. And sometimes we get 100%. That this function here was 100%. And that's because it didn't rely on any, it did rely on globals, but we had those symbols mapped and the assembly knew what those globals were beforehand. The relative offsets that it produced are the same that the function produced. So there are cases where we can get 100%, but it's not a requirement and it's not an always. We don't have to worry about it always. You just have to know when there are differences, can you account for what those differences are going to be? That was probably overly verbose. I did a talk last year at Game On Expo, and I go over that, and it's actually really good that this exists. So especially with an optimizer, there's lots of different ways that you could write code that will all compile to the same machine code. And that's actually what makes this a creative process and a creative endeavor. where we can say, I own the copyright to this code. Konami doesn't own the copyright to this code. Because I wrote it, I know how it was made and where it come from. It just coincidentally, because of care and crafting, but coincidentally compiles to exactly the same thing that whatever Konami's code, which we've never seen, also compiles to. And because we can have that that kind of that interoperability relationship where my code interops with somebody else's copyrighted production, I can still claim copyright on this. Konami can't, so they can't come after me with DMCA and other things like that. So the dot versus under, you have to know what the reasoning is for the change there. So again, gplayer demo underscore, we create a text symbol in a symbol table called gplayer demo. It's pointing to a particular address. When the disassembler comes through, it says, this looks like a reference because I'm grabbing 16 bits and 16 bits and putting them in a single register. That looks like it's a memory address. Do I have any memory addresses that have a symbol name associated with them? Oh, we do. We have gplayer demo timer. Put that in there instead and make it a symbol reference instead of a just a immediate integer 16 bits and 16 bits. The compiler does exactly the same thing when it's compiling, except we don't have a variable called gplayer demo timer. We have a variable called gplayer. The type of that variable is a struct, and the offset of 32C in that struct is the demo timer field. And so when we're decompiling, we have to kind of map these two concepts together. And so the underscore is a character that's in a variable name. Dot is a way to access fields in a struct or fields in a union. So semantically in C, they have completely different purposes. We just use the underscore to help us with that interoperability between the assembly and the C code. We have a wrong offset here. So I said that this was flags. I miswrote params. I misspelled params. So that's fixed. So far, most everything is just those symbols that will never match. Oh, I knew this was going to come up too. G entities. So this is another case where we use underscore, but then there's a number. We can't have a number as a field name. This is actually an array. And again, we just have to know that that's what the notation is. There's nothing that's going to help us with that. And then the next one is that same variable plus 1780. We need to divide by BC, and that's a plus 20. And so this is going to be index 180. And that will give us the correct thing there. Oh, except not, because it's hex 180. Sorry, hex 20, which is 32. I think it's the right number. So we're getting close. I don't know yet for sure, but I'm guessing that this is going to be as close as we get in decomp.me. And this one, again, will never match. And there's no way to match it without... we can't produce C code that would both use this symbol and produce the same machine code otherwise, all the same instructions. So we just have to know that those mean the same thing. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. There might be ways to do it without that symbol. But I think this is good for the PlayStation. Let's see if this works. Is there anything here that's I think is going to trip up? This might be an issue for the PSP. case 1. So a lot of times, even though demo timers are integers and checking it specifically against 0, most of the time I think it's going to be a not. So I'm going to switch that preemptively. Oh, this is interesting. So our linter would catch this. We're creating an entity from an entity at a very specific location. This is an automatic variable that's being created. We actually need to get this from the gEntities table. And I don't remember what the gEntities offset is. So we'll... it is in our symbol table configuration, but we can also get it from the map file. And that's going to be in main, the main map, which is here. I'm going to take this address from the automatic variable, the 6E98, and subtract the gEntities start. And that gives me 3ACO, divide all that by BC. That is offset 80. Oh, that's the start of, so that's entity 128. No, it's offset 80. It's hex 50. I don't think that there is... Yeah, there's nothing that's special about that entity. That's weird. Usually entities are not indexed directly like that, except if they have very specific values. So we're going to get another symbol issue here. This one will be a little harder to debug, but that should be fine there. We have a couple of these, don't we? Yeah, this is weird. So I'm gonna pull this into a variable because I'm guessing that this is gonna be the way that it works out. So we do have a linter that would have found this, which is nice. So the linter will come through, look at all the automatic variable names, and it'll say the address range for this variable is in the entities table. So go back and figure out what entity it is. This is the first time, though, that I've seen this particular offset used. I'm going to make a note here. And we might want to, start an enum for different indexes. Entity alloc. Alloc entity. Alloc entity, the function name will match. That will be fine, which is here, the JAL instruction, jump in link. The args won't match. So A0 is the first arg. Just that reference. Because we're taking a pointer to a global variable that the compiler will eventually know the address to, but decomp.me just knows that there's some global variable that it'll have to link to at some future point, which decomp.me doesn't do. It can't know what that address is, and so it just needs to leave the symbol there for the linker to come through and fix up later. So I think that's it, though. That's all we need for the PlayStation. We could check it, make sure that this works. I'm gonna get rid of these. The current music ID and stop music flag, I'm interested to see where those come from. Obviously, they were in the context. No, they weren't in the context. But they are mapped symbols, so we probably have them in a header somewhere. They might be in stage. They might be in game. They should be in sound effects ID, I think. Or sound effects. Yeah, so that's... They're already... We don't need those declarations. One's there as well. And so the only other ones we have these two flags. And we'll leave those. All right, so we're going to try this on the PlayStation. So now that when we do compile it with the rest of the code, we have all the offsets and addresses for all of these things. And so I'm expecting this to build fine, and it does. So yeah, this continues to match. I doubt that this is going to work. Let me close these. Yeah, I don't think I need that. We're going to have different global names, those automatic names for the PSP. I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. And so we'll do the PSP version. That actually went much better than I expected it to. And we'll see how close we are for the PSP. Hey Ansh, good to have you back. Ansh 2009 says, I really want to program and really like to make things, but when I read through the documents and tutorial videos, I get bored and quit. Yeah, that's... what can we do about that? So first of all, I think finding something that you're interested in or passionate about, like don't just program to program, but try to find something that that you want to do specifically. So like, is game programming what you want? Is writing something to I don't know. Yeah, I definitely agree with Dizik. You got to find something that is interesting to you, and what that is, I mean, nobody can decide. That's your job to find something interesting to you. And to me, that then influences what programming language you want to use, what frameworks and other things like that. If you have absolutely zero programming experience whatsoever, I'd probably look into Ruby or JavaScript. Those probably are the most PHP. That's probably verboten nowadays. Those are probably the easiest languages to get started with. I got started with C, really. Actually, BASIC. But nobody uses BASIC for anything anymore. Even Java. Java's a pretty good starting language. And yeah, try to do something that you want to do. Is there any like specific domain that you're interested in? So while yeah, I definitely so R6 is definitely saying try to make something. That's usually what I do, for better or worse. Yeah, you get some idea, you want to make it, pick a language and get going with that language. So we have a few things that should have been obvious to me at the start, but I'm a fool, so I don't always think ahead. So we have the creation of E. Karsuman, which is interesting, but there's actually two of them. But why? Nope, this is Karsuman. So we're going to use the EID macro for that. I learned, actually, I say I learned C first, but I learned it kind of at the same time as C++, like a very procedurally oriented C++, adding objects on later. My only, I think, criticism is C++ is a really complicated language, and I learned C++, didn't do anything with it for I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years, and I've already felt like the language was very different, and the way that people were programming it was very different. And now, like, C++ is almost unrecognizable to me. But again, it's not something that I think you need to worry about. Okay, so this is... let's try to get rid of the truthiness. Yeah, this is getting put into a variable. And it looks like a sine 32. I think the different concepts, there's like a million different concepts, but learning how to think procedurally, learning about algorithms and data structures, those start becoming the important things. And the languages are really secondary to all of that. Yeah, I think managing the complexity as well. Oh, this is interesting. So this is saying it's gplayer on 27. No, what they're doing is they're pulling out the player entity into a pointer. It looks like, and this happens as well. No, they're not. They're pulling out the player entity. But it's not being used. They're also doing some work with the tile map that doesn't seem to be done in the PlayStation, and so we'll have to see if they're loading a value from the tile map, but then it looks like not using it. So I think that's just dead code that probably will continue to work on the PlayStation regardless of whether it's there or not. This is odd too. I don't see the reference to the tile map. Oh, it's this up here. I think am I seeing what's going on? So it looks like this tile map is being read, but then not used. So I'm going to make a new variable. We are missing at least one variable. It's right here. It looks like it's a sine 16. So I'm going to make a scroll x, And this looks just like a dead store. These are actually being added together. It's also odd a little that M2C didn't generate this code even though it's there. It's like I was wrong, it's assigned 32. Yeah, so this is just dead code, and when we go back to the PlayStation version of the game, this... Oh! Stop it! Compiler! I was gonna say this should still just work. Oh, it is working. I just did the wrong thing. What do we do? Just get rid of this. We need to find E Karasuman as, I think it was 4E? 4F. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is all dead stores. Dead stores means we take a value from memory and we put it into a variable. Actually, this ends up being an immediate value. So it's not an expensive instruction, but it's an instruction. But then we're never going to do anything with this entity value. And it looks like we are, because we're reading it here and then reading a field in that struct, which would cause a read in memory, as well as here. And we're storing that in scroll X, but then scroll X is never being used. So GCC recognizes that. It says, okay, where's scroll X being used? It's not. So I don't have to do any of this. So it gets rid of this line. And it says, okay, where's entity being used? It's not. So I don't have to do that line either. MetroWorks doesn't do that. It does do that, just not when the optimizer is disabled. And we probably should def this. And then I can keep copying and pasting between the two. Dead code should result, or if you have an optimizing compiler, dead code would be the same thing as commenting out. It just means, so with interpreters can do this too, but it's a little, so JavaScript is an interpreted language, Python, Ruby, to a certain extent, Java, anything with a runtime and bytecode. So interpreted languages will come through and they'll say, I know everything that happened before, and I'm on this line, I'm going to execute entity equals reference to the player variable, and it's going to do that, and it's going to store the value in some entity variable state that it's keeping. And it's going to go to the next line and say, okay, I'm going to calculate the value of scroll X. It doesn't know anything that's going to happen next. So it doesn't know that scroll X, this assignment to scroll X, actually has no side effects because it's a local variable. It doesn't have any... so when I say side effects, I mean, does it affect state outside of this function? If I assign a value to this scroll X variable, will it have any impact anywhere in the system or not? in this case, because scroll X is never read by any other part of this function, and it's not visible to any other part of the program, it has no effect. If I thought, however, that this line, well, anyway, so a compiler can go through and it does many passes. It converts everything to machine code, and then it says, or some intermediate representation. And then it can come through again and say, okay, now I know what all my variable stores are. I know what all these other things are. Who uses scroll X? And it looks at the control flow of everything below and says, nobody ever reads scroll X, so I don't have to do this line. And so, yeah, effectively, it's the compiler saying, get rid of that. And this isn't going to compile any differently on an optimizing compiler. It will compile slightly differently here, but that's something different. And then it does it again. So I got rid of a line. Now let's see what other lines I can get rid of. And it will do the same thing then for this entity variable as well. For MetroWorks, so Symphony of the Night for the PSP was compiled by MetroWorks. The stages were compiled without the optimizer turned on, which means it's going to go through and basically compile this like an interpreter would, and just put all the code in there, regardless of whether it's used or not, and then never go back and clean up the stuff that's not used. And so that's what we end up seeing here. We have unfortunately, we have a entity ID that we don't have yet here. We do know what those entity IDs are. Again, thank you to Project Oblivion for going through and getting all this. And this is the boss doors overlay. And this is another case where we don't have a symbol for this yet. And so the symbol is going to be different. And we'll have to go add that symbol. I might do that while I'm thinking about it. Okay. So this assignment is out of order. And the PSP is more sensitive to that, again, because it's not optimized. Yeah. Definitely too many E's. Oh, we're getting close. I was, again, like the number up here is only one of the ways that we know whether or not we're matching completely or not. Usually when the last part of this is an odd number, I know that there's still more work to do. If it's an even number, it might just be symbols. So symbols always occupy 2 instructions. Every diff in this first number is 5. I don't know what the 5 is a reference to. Like, there's nothing 5 in the diff between these two things, so I'm not sure what that. It's not 5 bits. It's definitely not 5 bytes. So 5 whats? I don't know. I have no idea. But I do know that 5 is bad. 5 represents basically half an instruction, and that's gonna usually half an instruction is not what's wrong. Sometimes, in the case of function calls, that could be legitimate. But in this case, it's, sorry, I shouldn't say it's half an instruction. It is actually just 1 instruction. But why 5? I don't know. I double E'd the variable name. Did I? Oh, I probably did. Thank you. I did double E the variable name. That's one of those cases where, again, decomp.me is not going to see the difference between symbols. It doesn't know. And I'm going to say, okay, those symbols are different. And then it's going to compile poorly, and then I will fail. And then I'm going to have to go debug that. So the next thing is down here on 88, and we're doing the same thing here. So we need to figure out what entity ID 55 is, and create a value for that. So Karsuman was 4F. Feather attack is then hex 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. Life up spawn. The doors are responsible for the life up spawn. That's interesting, don't you think? Yeah, it's interesting. I know. Oh, I did it in the symbol file as well? Okay. Okay, I'll fix all the things. I even put a lowercase e in the symbol file. How broken is that? Did I get that right? Missing an underscore. Okay, so it looks like we just have these out of order. And is that it? That might be it. We do have a handful of globals here that let's make sure that this is still working on the PlayStation. So I don't want this number to be necessarily bigger than 160. If it is, I have to go check to see what it is, and it's no bigger. So I think that's fine. So for the PSP, I am going to go replace these globals. I don't want to map them. Ooh, I do have something wrong here. 51. So we're not doing an entity plus plus. It results in the same thing, and GCC is smart enough to know that. We're doing an entity plus 2. Or self plus 2. Now it's much better. And I think that's pretty good. So the two globals that are PlayStation specific, for the time being, I am going to replace those with the PSP versions, just to get it compiling, and then I will oh, we already have that one mapped. Great. When I import the data, I'll fix those. Okay, is it going to work? We don't need music ID or stop music flag. We don't need init interactable. And all this should be there already. When I said we don't need that, I mean we definitely do need a declaration for init interactable. It's in all the stages, so it really should just be in stage.h. But yeah, that worked as well. So we got another one done. Boss door is done. This is compiling for the PSP. There was just things that I didn't want to import before the data. What do we have? 1134 and 113C. Yeah, we don't have those yet. So we'll get those. We'll get those later. And that'll be done too. And so yet another section of NZ1 is done. So I think there's like 6 or 7 functions now that I have in my queue to get up. But we'll get those checked in and get a little more done. So we're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. If you like the game, if you like decompiling, join us on Discord. I think I'll get back on Discord. I haven't been there since Christmas break. I'll get back on. There's a lot of other people chatting. I think usually there's several dozen people in the Soten Decomp Discord, including people from lots of other Decomp projects. So come join us over there and see what we're doing. We do have some open issues for people who might be new to decompiling, things that you can do if you're not necessarily familiar with the process. So check out the issues. They're marked with like good first issue. I haven't looked at those lately though to see what there might be, but take a look. That's all I got for you though. Appreciate everybody showing up. A lot of good conversation today. And really, I appreciate everybody showing up for chat. It makes it a lot of fun. I'll be back tomorrow. Adios.